I'm Phyllis, and welcome to my Southern Simply Kitchen, where Southern food is simply done. Today, we're going to be making drop biscuits. The holidays are approaching, and if you really want to impress your guest any time of the year, but especially at the holidays, my mom's drop biscuits are the thing for you. You really only need 2 ingredients. You need self-rising flour and you need heavy cream. Not half and half, you need heavy cream. Sometimes your label might say heavy whipping cream, but you need heavy cream. And then an optional ingredient, if you want to change the flavor of it a little bit, is buttermilk, and then I use some spray to spray my pan, and other than that, that's all we need. Really, these are the 2 things you need, and then we just need to grease our pan that we're going to cook on. And so you need a baking sheet, you need a bowl to mix your dough in, and this bowl has a narrow bottom and then high sides, and you'll see why I like this kind of bowl. So it's very important that you don't use a flat bowl or a round bowl to try to mix these in. And then I just stir them up with a fork. Sometimes I use a little spatula, and you're going to need I scoop mine out because I like every biscuit to look the same. And then a measuring cup and a flour sifter. If you don't have a flour sifter, you can use 2 forks or either a little fine mesh strainer. So whatever it takes for you. And so we'll be back in just a few minutes and get started on my mom's drop biscuits. Okay, I've got my ingredients together now, got them measured out, and first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 450. So I'm just using the regular bake, and I've got it on 450, and we'll just let it heat up. And now I have 2 cups of self-rising flour in my little sifter, and I've already started sifting, but I'm just going to sift it. You want your flour to be fluffy, not hard. And I don't know if you have a sifter or not, but I just had one that I've been married 39 years, and I had the same sifter all those years, and the handle broke off of it, the little knob, and you couldn't turn it anymore. So I just had to get a different one, and it's so funny. My mom passed away in 2012, and I had bought this little sifter home from her house, and so I had an extra sifter. So good little thing to have. So got my 2 cups of flour sifted well there. And so what you're going to do in your bowls, you're going to pull it up to the sides and make a well there in the center. So got that. And now I've got 1 cup of this heavy cream in my thing here, and I'm just going to add that. So that's 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of cream. And I know that I'm going to need a little more liquid than that. So I always take and add my extra liquid to be some buttermilk. So just put in a little buttermilk. And if you didn't want extra, if you didn't like the buttermilk flavor, you can just start stirring it up, and you're going to stir clockwise and just stir around in a circle, and you kind of let the flour just, the heavy cream absorbs the flour into the mixture, and you just keep stirring around, and the flour just keeps falling in a little bit, and sometimes you take your fork and touch it and make some come from the edges fall in, just as if you were making biscuits by hand. The reason my mom started making drop biscuits, she had made hand-rolled or handmade biscuits always. But in 1976, my parents and my aunt and uncle bought a motel at Myrtle Beach, and my family moved down to Myrtle Beach to stay in the hotel, and so we ran the place. My dad still worked at the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, and so Mama always said the minute she got her hand in dough was the exact minute somebody would call on the phone or come in the office, and then there she was trying to get her hands cleaned off so she could attend to our customers. So she started making drop biscuits, and then if somebody came in, she could just stop and go take care of them. So that was her need for learning, or for starting to make drop biscuits. And if she didn't have heavy cream, she would use milk and butter and do it that way. But this 2 ingredients is so much easier. And so just keep stirring around, and you see we've got used a lot of our flour, but still have some flour. And you can see how you want your dough to be light and fluffy. And so this is still nice and light and fluffy, and it's staying together in a ball. If you work too much flour into it, it won't stay together. It'll become disjointed, and so I think this is just perfect. And so I always like to taste my dough. And then that way, and I know nowadays they don't want you to taste raw flour, but I do it anyway. And yes, I think my biscuits taste just fine. So what we're going to do now, we're going to use that little scoop, and this is approximately 3 tablespoons. And like I said, if you don't have a scoop, you can use a spoon to do it. And so I just scoop them up like this, and then put them on my baking sheet. And this sheet has been sprayed with cooking spray. And so you just scoop your little biscuits out and put them there. And now it's up to you if you want them to touch each other. I don't let mine touch each other. I like for them to be crispy. My husband really likes these biscuits because they're kind of craggy and have little spots, and they get a nice crispy crust on them. So that's his favorite thing about these, as opposed to the handmade biscuits. So we will just keep working on this. If you are doing this and you get too much dough around the edge, just use your little spatula and scrape it off. And so I'll be back in just a minute, and I'll have these biscuits all scooped out, and we'll be putting them in the oven. Okay, just got my last biscuit scooped there, and as you can see, we came out with 12 biscuits. That's from 2 cups of self-rising flour, 1 cup of heavy cream, and a little dash of buttermilk. And so I've got my 12 biscuits right here on my pan. They aren't touching, and my pan was greased. My oven is preheated to 450, and so we're just ready. We're going to stick this right here in the oven. And that's about halfway in the oven, and then set my timer for 13 minutes. And you can experiment with your times for your oven. So, I would maybe set it at 12 minutes. Sometimes when I do biscuits, it takes 15 minutes for them. Sometimes it takes 13, and I assume that just has to do with how it's mixed up, or perhaps how the humidity or something is that day. So anyway, we'll be back in 13 minutes, and we'll be checking on these biscuits. Okay, perfect timing. The timer's going off on the biscuits, and let me turn my oven off. It's been 13 minutes, and look at that. We have a pan of beautiful biscuits, and I have 12 biscuits here, and we're going to be minus a biscuit because, of course, I'll try the one here on the corner that's the ugly one, the one that didn't have quite enough dough. But anyway, you will just love these things, and I love them when they come out of the oven and they're nice and hot. And these have a nice little crispy crust on the outside of them, but that inside is so moist and tender. That's what biscuits are all about. And you can have jam for your biscuits. You can put butter on them. You can do honey. I like mine plain. And so, I just love that. You will too, because you can just really taste that little tiny taste of the buttermilk in there, but the rest of it is just, oh, just a perfect little biscuit. And these biscuits do really well if you have leftovers. I take and put them in a Ziploc bag or in some Tupperware, and then I heat them back up the next day at about 300. Just stick them in the oven. It doesn't take very long. And then we have leftover biscuits, which is such a treat for us. We love to have them for breakfast when they're leftover. Guess I could make fresh ones, but I'm a little bit lazy. But anyway, you get your self-rising flour. Remember, that was 2 cups of self-rising flour, 1 cup of heavy cream, a little dash of buttermilk. Mix that together. Put them in your oven at 450 for about, mine takes 13 minutes. If I were you, I'd check my oven at 12 minutes. And then you can go, I even have had cooked them in a different oven, and it's taken as long as 15 minutes. So you just experiment with them. But biscuits are just one of those things everybody loves. So from my Southern Simply Kitchen to yours, enjoy.